Yes, of course. Yes. I love it. That's good. Win. Don't fall. Rocker John Bon Jovi once said, "I fell 9 times. I rose 10." Today for me is about falling and rising. I've spent 20 years in Los Angeles. I've actually performed on this stage. Rise. I couldn't pay my rent all the time. Fall. I had to go home to regroup. Fall further. 3 weeks after I was home, I was accepted, my play was accepted in the New York Fringe Festival. Rise. Okay? The stress made me sick. Fall. Thought I was dying. Fall further. I had to go back home. Really just fall to the ground. Okay? So I discovered I wasn't dying, so I had to make plans, and they brought me here. And I am a carny. So proud to be one. And most of my mentors and my workshop people aren't here. My mentors aren't here, so I will acknowledge them in my book when it is published. They were just personal things. So I just told you most of the background for my story. I've just arrived home. I met my nephew Chanel for the 3rd time. The first time was 3 years prior to this. He's 27. I think I'm dying, and I'm high on vitamin because I have pain. And this is from a work in progress called What Men Do. For 3 weeks, every day since I moved into my mother's house, I replayed all my life's failures. It would take 4 years for me to realize arriving in New York City with $20 in my pocket, staying for 3 months, and producing a play that should have had a budget of $20,000 but was done for less than 3 was a triumph. When I arrived at my mother's, I viewed my New York experience as an embarrassing, spirit-crushing failure, the mother of all failures. If I had been in better physical and emotional shape, I would have summoned up some Bible verse, some personal development quote to delete the scenes playing in my head. But the Vicodin slammed the door on all my defenses. My head throbbed. I scanned the walls for blood and ran my fingers through my hair for blood and flecks of paint. I had hoped Chanel would distract me from insistent scenes of failure and images of the white hearse from Holt's funeral home. But his questions prompted me to once again press replay. So I blurted out, "The play is in my past. Next month, I'm flying to New York to do a movie." "For real?" "Damn," he exclaimed. His eyes much too large for a spoken word experimental film intended for PBS and filmed in Ithaca, New York. Normally during a period of struggle, creative opportunities like the film would have spurred me on. A last hand rescuing me before I slipped into the ocean. My rescue would be evidence of possibility, that I wasn't stuck being a middle-aged former golden boy with bad credit, no bank account, and no concrete proof of that long-ago promise. But the few $1,000s I was to earn wouldn't cover 1/10 of the medical bills that the mail lady shoved through the slot at my mother's front door. And I would still owe thousands of dollars from the play's expenses, a debt that tormented me so when I was going under anesthesia, visions of my actor, director, technical director, and PR person hovered over me, demanding payment. The check would also wouldn't stop me from dying at my mother's house. But perhaps for a few moments, the thought of being paid for my life work would give me some peace. Grandma didn't say nothing about the movie, Chanel said. I hadn't shared the information with my mother. The part of me that majored in accounting for 2 years at the #1 accounting school in the country was already asking, is an occasional check this size worth all the sacrifices you made? Her questions, does it pay, how much, and the inevitable sigh weren't necessary. So you're doing all right, Chanel asked. Just an independent film, nothing major. The lead, though. They fly me up there, put me in a hotel, put a few coins in my pocket. As I described the project, once again I felt possibility stirring within me. Then you come back here. I released the possibility of rescue and sunk back into my chair. He took the remote and flipped through the cable channels in search of music and landed on a VH1 commercial. When the commercial ended, hip-hop producer and business mogul Diddy appeared on screen. Chanel angrily punched the remote. No, can't take that today. What? I can't stand the way you talk to people. Sometimes I'm watching Making a Band and I get so pissed off I want to throw the TV out the window. If I could get a hold of him, I'd kick his goddamn ass. What did he say? He just talked down to people. Like he's better than they are. Bougie motherfucker. I had seen a few episodes of Diddy's show. Diddy was confident and self-assured like any other mogul. Were those the qualities Chanel voiced as bourgeois? Even when they were from a man who had some street edge? It was possible Diddy behaved precisely as Chanel had described, but my nephew's radar seemed to jump to extreme agitation at the slightest hint of disrespect. He had angrily declared at each of our 3 meetings, ain't let nobody talk to me like that, I'm a man. I thought I'm a man was his reaction to my supposed bourgeois judgment, but he has also declared it to my brother, Chanel's father. Once after a rant about Chanel's poor work ethic, Calvin began to mimic him. I'm a man. I'm a man. Well, if he's a man, damn it, act like one. Perhaps Chanel's list of things he wouldn't tolerate as a man was the reason his work history consisted primarily of a short stint as a store clerk at a dollar store discount franchise and doing miscellaneous work at a junkyard. He don't want to work, Calvin told me as he drove me to the airport 3 years ago. He just does enough to get a few dollars, and when he's calculated that he's made enough money, he's out of breath, and he starts huffing, and he's saying he got to take a break. Oh, I'm tired. I'm like, well, maybe you need to go home. Yeah, he says, maybe I better. Seemed like you would want to get a little ahead. I ain't taking shit off of Diddy or nobody else, Chanel declared. Fuck that shit. I'd walk off that motherfucking show. Even if it was possible for you to make hundreds of thousands of dollars, not for no amount of money. Ain't nobody yelling at me. Ain't nobody disrespecting me. We all have to take some crap off somebody from time to time. Bullshit. For the right amount of money, you be kissing ass like everybody else. Ain't no right amount of money. Ain't got no money. Ain't no money worth that. Sounds like you kiss your grandfather's ass. I don't know what the fuck you talking about. 3 years ago, you told me he talked mean to you. You're still living at his house, aren't you? He hasn't changed, has he? You stay there and take shit off of him so you can keep your rent-free apartment. He was silent, his face perplexed. People have needs, I continued. They have kids. The kids have needs. There's food, clothes, toys, rent for a roof over their heads, mortgages, classes if you want them to be anything, college. You want to have those things, sometimes you have to compromise. Ain't taking shit off of nobody. Though it wasn't directed at me, his rage was like 100 darts of electricity shooting through my brain. Still, I understood his need to be his own boss. It is a trait of most Hawkins men. Chanel's father owns an auto body collision center. When he was in his early 20s working at a nearby Ford motor plant, he often pretended to pass out. His heart trouble rather than continue working on the assembly line. You had to raise your hand to get permission to go to the bathroom, he used to gripe. I have viewed every job I've had as temporary. Something I had to endure until I'm able to make a living off my creative career. One of my first cousins owned a rubber manufacturing company located in Indiana and Texas, and has complained for over 20 years about his financial struggles. Yet he can't bring himself to close down his company and work for someone else. Another cousin runs a landscaping business. Their fathers, my mother's brothers, ran a gas station and mechanic shop in the 1950s. The urge to be independent and try our own ideas is the natural one for Hawkins men. Regardless, I wanted to shout at my nephew, "Motherfucker, wake up! Your rigid list of rules is hurting you. My grandfather has stood in my face and told me I ain't shit. You can't talk to another man in that kind of way." Why did he say that to you? What happened? Ain't got to be no reason. He's just old. You can't pay attention to what old people say. It ain't a lot of difference between what he say now and what he say then. I thought about my mother and how she had always made her disappointment in me known. A week after I arrived home from New York, I scavenged through a kitchen cabinet for a coffee pot, searching through used aluminum foil, plastic cake containers meant to be discarded, and several canned goods past their expiration date. We need to organize these cabinets, I told her. If you don't like it, find your own place. He even told me he owns me, Chanel said. You don't say that to another black man. I wondered if the argument with his grandfather was recent or whether Chanel's anger and hurt was embedded in him, ready to flash at the smallest slight. No matter. In that moment, I understood him. My understanding was beyond empathy. In so many ways, this ex-felon with no ambition was me. I doubt my mother viewed me much differently than his grandfather viewed him when she told me to find my own place, knowing I had to ask her to buy me a plane ticket to get to her house from New York. She was telling me she owned me until I died. I had spent weeks analyzing what went wrong in my life and realized most of my mistakes, but there was no hope for me. Hope's funeral home, Whitehurst, would soon arrive, I thought. But Chanel was young. What he was going through didn't have to be permanent. He had time to correct his mistakes. If your grandfather bothers you that much, I said gently, maybe you need to start thinking about moving out. And go where? Where you got to go? He snarled at me when he said it. This time, his fury was aimed at me and successfully ripped through his target. I felt the impulse to look down for blood. I threw up my hands in exasperation, turned my focus to the television, and sat in silence, anxious for him to leave, fearful of saying the smallest things to provoke him. A few moments had passed before he said softly, "You don't have no money. It ain't a lot you can do." I nodded.